Yeah, got it.
Super. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the second session of the Power BI dashboard sessions. For anybody who managed to attend the last sessions, you know we covered up quite a bit of sort of background work. And for anybody who wasn't on the first call, Paddy's uploaded a recording of the call to the team site. We've also got it on YouTube now. And we've also got the slide deck and the sample data files for the team site as well. So all the information is there that you need. I'm going to spend a few minutes recapping on what we looked at last time. We had an overview of the dashboard that we're going to be working towards creating. It's a dashboard based on UK road traffic incidents in 2018. If you remember, we filtered the data. We downloaded a sample data set from the Highways England website, and we filtered the two data sets. And we decided to sort of create some metrics and some visualizations around the number of incidents that we've had on the networks, as well as the police force, the severity of the incident, moderate, slight, severe. And we wanted to have a look at what weekdays our incidents sort of occurred on as well. So we've got our core data sets. We'll have a quick look at the data now. If you remember, I downloaded two tables. We've got a fact table on the right here. This contains our main incident data, and it's got fields such as date, severity, police force, and the day of the week as well. It's a one-to-many table. We've got a dimension table as well, which relates the information. And if you remember, it's related through numeric references to create the one-to-many relationships. And I did a bit of a discussion around how we have one instance of each police force in the dimension tables. I use police force as an example, and that can relate to many instances of the police force in the fact table on the right. So those are our two data sets that we were looking at. Then we pulled our information into Power Query, and we connected to the data sets. If you remember, I mentioned a 4-step check that I tend to go through, that I carry out on data before putting it into the data model and creating my visualizations. Step 1 is to get rid of any unwanted columns. Step 2 is to give the columns a meaningful name. Get rid of any underscores, or make sure everything's camel case and it's got spaces, because these whatever you name your sort of columns in Power Query, that's what they come through as in the various visualizations, charts and graphs, etc. So your axes may say police force on the axes or the title of a visualization, and you don't really want it saying police underscore force, or it's spelt incorrectly. Check 3 was to check the format that the information comes in at. So if you remember, we have this little icon here that you can click, and you can make sure all your formats are okay. So we've got decimal format for this. The police force related field is just numeric, and date fields are obviously date time in the date time format. Step 4 of my check was to just ensure that dates and times are just dates if you need just dates. Sometimes Power Query might pull in into the same column. It might pull in date and time in the same column. If you don't need the time, get rid of it and just change it to a date format, because that can really bloat your data model and really increase the size of things. Next, we pulled our information in, we named it all correctly. We went to the relationship model, we went to the modeling area, and we created our relationships. If you remember, Power BI had a stab at creating the relationships, didn't quite get them quite right. So we got rid of those and we connected them. We connected them down through this waterfall technique. And as you can see, we've created the slices here. These are the dimension tables. And this is our fact table, and all your filters come down through your dimension tables. We've set the dimension tables up here, and it filters down when you click one right through your model, and it just pulls those incidents in. So that's how everything's sort of related. We went across to Power BI next, and we created some very basic visualizations. I think we put a map on there, and we also put a slicer on there to have a look at the data. That's as far as we got last week. What we're going to cover off in this session is we're going to have a quick glance through the Power BI desktop menus and interface. Then we're going to pull on the map visual. We've got the longitude and latitude in our fact table data, so we're good to go for building a map table, a map visual, sorry. Next, we're going to have a break from visuals, and we're going to create a measure. This is a measure in the top corner. They're created using DAX formulas. DAX formulas, you can create two types of calculations, a measure and the calculated column. So we're going to look at both of them. We're going to set something up dead simple, but we're going to get this working. We're going to talk about those. Then we are back to the chart types, and we're going to build the various charts in there. We're going to build what you can see on the screen. We've also got a matrix table in the bottom right-hand corner here that we're going to talk about as well. Next, if you remember when I demoed the chart, if we clicked on this visualization, if we clicked on a field, a bar in this visualization, the rest of the chart's filtered down accordingly. That's called interactions. So we'll be looking at how you set interactions up as well. Finally, we'll be having a look at slicers, how we filter the data. That's these things here. So we'll be setting a few of those up. I have got bookmarks in my presentation, but that's going to be one for the next session because I really just don't think we'll have time to get to bookmarks. Okay, I'm going to jump across to Power BI now. And let me know if you can see that. So we've got the completed dashboard. Yep.
Yep.
Ah, good. Excellent, thank you. So here's the dashboard that we're going to be building. We've got our fields in here. We've pulled our tables in there. So we're pretty much good to go. I'm going to start a new dashboard, and we're going to sort of build this from scratch now. So let me just take stock of where I am. First up, I'm going to talk about the menus and interfaces quickly in Power BI. I've minimized it slightly so you can see what I'm doing here. And first up on the left here, we've got three icons. We've got report, data, and model, top to bottom. Whichever one you selected, you've got this little yellow icon here. You've got this little yellow sort of bar here to tell you which one you're in. But to be honest, it's pretty obvious which one we're looking at. At the moment, we're in report view. It's the key page where you add your visuals, your filters, and your measures. We'll be doing a lot of work in this, so I'm not going to really go into too much detail on that. It's better to do it as we're working through it. Next, we've got our data area here, the data view. This gives us an overview of any tables that we've created in the model. As you can see at the bottom, we've got a summary of the number of rows. So we have an awareness of how much data we've pulled in each table. We've got quite a few records in the incidents table. If you look at the police force table, we've got 45. And if you select a column here, I'm going to select the police force related column, and as you can see, we've got 51 distinct values in there. So that gives you a bit of an overview of your sorted data. This is where you can also create measures. I spoke about measures. You can create measures in here, and you can create calculated columns in here as well. You can also jump through to Power Query in here by clicking the three ellipses and clicking Edit Query if you want to make any more amendments to the data. We also have this button. It takes us through to the data model. We had a good look at this last time, but basically this is where we built our relationships between our fact and our dimension tables. So we had a good look at that last time. I'm going to switch back to the report area now. I can maximize it now. We've got a ribbon at the top here that displays your common tasks in Power BI for your reports and visualizations. Got the canvas area in the middle where you create your visualizations. We've got a pages tab at the bottom, which works a little bit like Excel, and you can add, delete, or remove pages. We've got the filters panel on the right here. This shows the available, you can add fields in here and filter your information. You can filter it two ways. You can filter it on this page, or you can filter all of the pages in your report. You might have more pages. So we'll be looking at that further down the line, but not tonight. Next, we got the visualizations pane. Here you add, change, or customize your visualizations, and you can also apply drill throughs and things like that. Finally, we've got the fields pane here. That shows your available fields in your queries, and you can drag those onto the canvas and the filters pane, and you can apply your filters and your visualizations. As we work through building more visualizations, we'll be looking a lot more at some of these sort of tools. So we don't need to be that familiar with them. It's probably better to look at them as we go. Okay, I'm going to start building the map visualization now. I'm just going to have a drink of my drink. I'm getting a bit of a sore throat here. Okay, right. So we mentioned that we're going to be building our map visual at first. In the standard visualizations pane, you get two types of map. You get a map, it's actually called a map, and you get a filled map. The one we're going to deal with in this instance is the map, because a map allows us to work with longitude and latitude. And we know by looking at our information for the fact table, we've got the longitude and latitude in the correct format. So we could quite easily create a quick visualization here using the longitude and latitude. So I'm going to, actually, we don't have to use longitude and latitude. If we had postcode information or city information in a field, you can pull that into the location box here. So you can pull in postcode information. It will still map. Sometimes it gets it a bit wrong. You might pull a city in, and there might be a Birmingham in the UK, and I think there's a Birmingham in the USA. So if you do use city names, I think you have to be a bit more specific, and there's ways of doing that. But in this instance, we're going to use latitude and longitude. So I've pulled those in, and we've got a heck of a lot of incidents occurred in 2018 on the UK highways. I'm going to zoom in on Scotland because we're the Scottish user group. So we'll keep focused on that. You can add a legend to separate your data. I'm going to pull in the severity. I'm not going to pull it from the fact table because that would just give us a number. Let's have a quick look at that. This is how to do it wrong. 1, 2, 3. We did relate them through the relationships to our severity dimension table. So if I pull that in, we have serious, moderate, and slight. So let's zoom in here, and that's basically our map visual almost done. You have a size field here. We're not dealing with size because they're all single incidents. But if you were looking at sort of retail data, and we had sort of a supermarket in Fort William, it's the only place I know. I've been up there Nevis a few times. If we had a supermarket in Fort William and it's had 10,000 sales a day, and we had one in Inverness that only had 5,000, if you use the numeric information for that field, the bubbles will change size on the map. So that's what size is for. Like I say, we've only got single instance, so we're just going to use the we don't need to use the size field. What I like to do with maps is go into the properties. Every visual has a lot of properties that you can change. They're all categorized. They're all different for different visualizations as well. It can get quite confusing this. Sometimes I forget where properties are for certain visuals. But I'm going to change the title in here because I'm going to make it a little bit more descriptive. Incident by severity. Severity. Let's get our spelling right. If it's going on YouTube. There we go. Incidents by severity. And what I like to do with this, we could talk about these properties all day long, but we've got three icons here. This is where you add your fields. This is the fields panel. This is the format panel, and this is the analysis panel. I'll show you a bit on the analysis panel when we build a bar chart. So I'm not going to go into many of these, but what I do like to do with maps is change the theme to grayscale, and then your information just shows up a little bit better than on a colourful map. Okay. Any questions so far? Are we okay? Good. I'm going to talk about DAX formulas. We'll have a break from visuals now. I'm going to talk about DAX formulas. So I'll just put this roughly where we want it. So that can stay there. So yeah, Power BI is a built-in formula language called DAX, and we're going to use DAX to create two formula types: measures and calculated columns. Measures are going to play a key part in our next few visuals, so that's why I've took a break from visuals now, because we're going to build a measure and then we're going to use it within the visuals. Bit like Excel. Sorry, DAX is the built-in formula language in Power BI, a bit like Excel, and it stands for data analysis expressions. It's really powerful. If you're not using DAX, you're not getting the most out of Power BI. Admittedly, I need to do a bit more work on my DAX, to be honest, because I've been away from Power BI for a while. That's why I'm sort of doing these sessions. So I'm looking to learn a little bit more about DAX, get reacquainted with it, and maybe do a few more sessions on that. Okay, spoke about measures and calculated columns. I'm going to talk about calculated columns first, and they work within the table itself. So I'm going to go to table level, and I'm going to go into weekday, and I'm going to build a very simple calculated column. They're a bit like Excel formulas. They're built into the table. You create them in report view, or you can create them in Power Query, and they're based on the information that's loaded into the model. A lot of calculated columns is not the best way to work. They can slow down performance because they're stored in memory, and they're calculated with every data refresh. So we've got a small table here. It's not going to do us too much damage. I tend to use them in my dimension tables, not in my fact tables, because fact tables can grow quite huge. So I'm going to build a real simple one here. So I create a new column. Like when we prepared our data model, get your naming right, so make it meaningful. I'm just going to call this day. And what I want to do, sorry, I want to create a column with the first three characters of the weekday, so we can use it in a chart. So it's a really good example of creating a calculated column. I'm going to use the left function. The left formula, it's a bit same as the left function in Excel. We're in the weekday table. So if I start typing weekday, the IntelliSense kicks in, and it allows us to select the table and then the field. So I'm going to select weekday. I'm going to add a comma, and then it asks us how many characters we want to get the leftmost information for. And I'm going to click 3. So that's done that. That's good. That's a calculated column. There's loads of formulas, loads of stuff you can do. You can do if statements and things like that, but I'm going to keep it simple and maybe we'll look at that further down the line. Next, we're going to create a measure. And if you think of measures as sort of virtual calculations, they sort of run. They run when you bring it into a visual, so they only calculate once, and they calculate every time your visual is interacted with. So it's better to create measures over calculated columns most of the time, because they sort of run on the fly, if you will. We're going to create a measure for the total number of incidents. It's probably the most simple measure we can build, but it's going to sit in the top right hand corner here. And when we start filtering our data, you'll see that the measure updates. So I'm going to click new measure. Formula bar pops up. Let's get rid of, I've already created a measure here. I'm going to get rid of that or rename it to number of incidents. Oh. So yeah, I'm going to create a new measure. The formula bar appears. I'm going to call this measure number of incidents. I'm going to click the equal sign. And what I want to do, I want to calculate the total number of rows in the incident table, in the fact table. So I'm just going to simply use the count rows formula. Count rows, open brackets, and the IntelliSense has given me my table options. So I'm just going to click incidents, and that counts the number of rows in the incidents table. We can now drag that onto the canvas, and that appears as a custom column chart. We don't want it to be a custom column chart. We want it to be a card. Cards are great for measures. And as you can see, I've swapped that to a card. A card just displays the total number with the sort of legend. So we can stick that in the top corner now. And basically, we've created a measure there. It was just a simple count rows of the incidents table, and I've named it number of incidents. So I'm going to do a little bit on the formatting here. what am I doing? I am changing the data label. I'm changing the display units to none, and that gives us the actual number of incidents, 120,000. I'll quickly demonstrate how measures interact with your model by just zooming in here, and I'll select one incident. So when you filter any of your visuals or you apply slicers, your data model works correctly. So it filters down the measure. If I was to hold down Control and select another, you can see that the measure's updated. So measures interact with your data model, and they're sort of created on the fly. So that's a little introduction to measures and calculated columns and DAX formulas. It's a total science in itself, to be honest. And you can have many measures. Measures also appear when you create a measure. They always land in the table that you're working in. So you just need to be aware of that. If you're in a different table, but you're creating a measure that you want related to another table, it will land in the table that you're currently working in. You can categorize models by creating measure tables, if you will, and they sit at the top and they can group all your measures together quite nicely. Something we can look at later as well. Okay, that's measures and calculated columns. Any questions so far? Okay. So now I'm going to add a bar chart. So when I'm pulling data, when I'm creating my visuals, I always like to start with a table, because if you're familiar with your data model and your record counts, if you pull your information into this table, I've pulled in number of incidents that matches our measure. I'll just take that out. I'm gonna create a bar chart of date against number of incidents. So we've got like 3. We know that we can check the data, if you will, if it's in a table. That's what I've done there. When you pull data in, they come in this sort of weird format. This is called the hierarchy view, and it confused me a lot, this, when I first started. And having these is not the best way of working, but I'm going to use it for this session. But the best thing to do when you're working with dates is create a date table, which is really just a related table, like we've created a related table for police force and severity. So it is good practice to have a date table in your model, and I'll be creating that in a future session. Really, I don't want to get bogged down into more of the boring stuff. I wanted to get a visual together. Rightly or wrongly, I should create a date table beforehand, but I just want to get the visuals on there, to be honest. So I'm going to pull in the number of incidents to switch out of that hierarchy mode. What I did is, bear with me, just get rid of that. Pull in the date. Yeah, you just click this little drop down here and switch it to date, and that goes into the dates that we all know. I'll demonstrate what you can do with that hierarchy at some other point. So I'm going to pull my number of incidents in. There we go, and we can check that against the measure. We know the numbers, so I'm going to switch that to the clustered bar chart. Looks very busy. We've got 365 days there. It's going to look busy. We could add a legend like we did with the incidents by severity, and we could add a legend for weekday. Doesn't look much better, but when we start getting some filters working, this chart won't look as congested. So I'm just going to leave it blue for now. Bar charts are great for sort of time amounts over time periods and things like that, or categories against values. So yeah, that's what I've done here. I've got all my dates in there, and I've put my number of incidents. Okay. Let's have a look at 1 or 2 features of bar charts. Again, we've got all this formatting. Number of incidents by date. The title's about right. The data model's been named correctly, so that's okay. I don't think we need these axes titles, because we know that it's a date. We know that it's a number of incidents. So I'm going to get rid of those. So if I click on x-axis, I can switch that title off. That disappears, and same for the y-axis. There. Oh, no, that hasn't happened. Bear with me, I've switched the numbers off. Yeah, I'm going to switch the title off there. There it goes. Okay. So that's bar charts, really. We could spend 10 minutes looking at these, but it's always better to just have a play about with those yourself. I mentioned analytics. These are particularly useful and demonstratable on bar charts. So we could add an average line here. So if I click add, it puts an automatic line in where the average is. I'm going to turn that to dark black. That shows up a little bit better. And then you can have a maximum line, you can have a minimum line, a trend line, and a percentile line. So yeah, that's bar charts. Excuse me. Next, I'm going to add a donut chart. Like a pie chart, donut chart segment for each category value. So donut charts are best used for really, really small sort of data sets with a small number of categories. A donut chart's a perfect fit for, I've just clicked it there from the visualizations panel. A donut chart is a perfect fit for severity. It might be okay for day of the week, actually, but I think it's better suited to severity. Donut charts are perfect for small categories, like I say. So I'm going to put my number of incidents in. Again, I've started with a table, and I'm going to have a look at weekday. That's why it's good to put it into a table. We know we've got 7 days a week. We know our numbers. So now we can convert it. Yeah, it doesn't look great. It's a little bit congested. Let's create this chart for severity instead. So going to move that out. I'm going to take weekday off. And there's our 3 severity categories with the values on. Again, I prefer these to pie charts. Pie charts are just a big blob. With donut charts, if you're feeling really artistic, you could create a measure. You could do a nice DAX formula to work out any calculation related to the severity. You could park it in the middle there, so you can combine your visuals. I'm not going to do that. And what I'm going to do with this donut chart is I'm just going to move it. I'm going to move the legend to the bottom. Okay. So there's our donut chart. That's great. Yeah. The title's okay. I think we can live with that. Move that up a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a matrix table in the bottom right-hand corner here. The matrix tables are really good for displaying your data across multiple sort of dimensions. It creates a step layout, a bit like a pivot table, if you will, in Excel. And it automatically counts the data and does your calculations and enables you to drill down. What I'm going to do, I'm going to add a matrix table. And I'm going to park it around here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add our number of incidents measure to the values. That gives us our count. I'm going to look at police force name. Remember to take it from the dimension table. Don't pull the numbers in from the fact table. That'll just give you a load of numbers. We need to pull in the related field. So I'm going to pull in police force. And there they all are. We've got quite a few incidents that aren't related to police forces. That's interesting. Okay. Don't know why that is. So yeah, what we've got there is we've got number of incidents by police force. But what I want to do is I want to add another tier. I want to add the date tier into here for each police force. And this will be really powerful when we start to add slices and things. We can really filter down on police force and then have a look at dates of incidents. So I'm going to pull that in to the rows. That's going to sit nicely within this plus sign for police force. And it's done that hierarchy thing that really annoys me and is not great for your data model either. That's why you need a date table. These hierarchy things, every date that you've got in your data model has if it has a hierarchy, it builds an extra table in the background. So if you've got 12 date columns across your tables, it's building 12 extra date tables in the background. So you can switch them off, and then we'd create a related date table, and I'll have a look at that in another session. So I'm just going to switch it to date. There we go. Now we can filter down and we can see the number of incidents by constabulary, by date. I'm going to add some columns here. Like I say, it's a bit like a pivot table in Excel. I'm going to add a column for severity. That drops in there. And there's our matrix table. We can go through the formats. We can add totals. We can add bars. We can add conditional formatting depends on values. We could color the row headers. We could change the background color, things like that. We could do quite a bit of formatting in the formatting pane there. So that's our matrix table. I'm now going to add a stack bar chart that's horizontal for day of the week. And then we've finished our visualizations. I want to spend 10 minutes looking at interactions. So we'll have a quick look at that and we'll talk about that. And then we'll throw a few slices on there. And then we'll wrap up, and in the next session we'll build this pop-out. We'll build this pop-out bookmark, and we'll talk a bit more about bookmarks. That's a bookmark. But I don't think we're going to cover it in this session. I'd rather do a proper session on those because they're really powerful. So back in our report, like I say, I'm going to create a columnar bar chart, horizontal, and again I'm going to put in the number of incidents. Haven't done the table thing, but I think we're okay with the data, and the number of incidents has gone into the values. I'm going to put weekday into the legend, and I've got that wrong, into the axes. And there is our clustered horizontal bar chart, but I've used the wrong field there for the axes actually. If you remember, we made the shortened calculated column. So I'm going to use that, and it makes everything sort of level at this side. Like the vertical bar chart, we know that these are days of the week. We know that these are number of incidents. So I'm going to turn those off in the format properties. So I'm going to go to the x-axis, and yeah, it helps him on the right chart. Sorry, it's been a long day. I'm going to switch the title off for the x-axis. For the y-axis, the y is gone. That's good. Okay, because we know that those are days of the week. And I'm going to do the same for the x-axis. There it goes. This ain't very descriptive. It's give us a range of 0 to 20,000. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a label, data label. I'm going to switch that on. Pops it on the end there. I prefer them to be sort of inside the end there, and we can change the format to the actual values. So that's it for our visualizations. I hope I've covered everything off there. There's a heck of a lot you could do with formatting and things like that. But we'd be here all day if I was to go into all of those. So what I'm going to talk about now is how everything interacts when you click various visuals. And I'm going to focus my interactions on this day of the week chart. And we'll use this to sort of set up how the other visuals are filtered here. So I've got that selected. If I was to click Sunday, as you can see, the other charts have sort of filtered down. This is called a highlight. What's happened here is we've clicked Sunday, so it's really highlighted Sunday on this donut chart, and it's faded the other stuff out. Same on this visualization, same on the bar chart. It's really highlighted Sunday and faded the other stuff out. I don't particularly like that. I like it to filter right down, but that's what's happened. So as we click one visualization, the other's on the screen, update. That's called interactions. So with this chart selected, I'm going to click format here, and I'm going to click edit interactions. And when I toggle that on and off, you can see these new icons appear. That's a bad example because it's only got 2, but this donut chart has 3. So what I've done, I've selected the day of the week chart, I've gone to format, and I've clicked edit interactions, and we've got these 3 new icons. So let's have a play about with these icons and see what we can do. The first icon is filter. The second icon is highlight. Third icon is don't do anything. So when we click something on here, nothing will happen to this visual. So let's select the donut chart. I'm going to put it on highlight for now. It's already on highlight. We've seen that, but I'm going to select it. And for this bar chart, I'm going to select filter. So this will really rattle it down to the actual day of the week. Same for the matrix table. I'm going to switch that to filter. And just to demonstrate none, do nothing, the chart is not going to update when we use it, when we click on the various elements of this visual. So let's click that now. We've set those up. So that's on highlight, that's on drill down, that's on filter, that's on filter, and that's on do nothing. So if I click Sunday, the donut chart still looks awful. I really don't like these highlights. The date bar chart is perfect. All of these days are Sunday, and our matrix table is filtered down as well. So if I click on Avon and Somerset, all of those dates are Sundays as well. We can control click as well. So if we wanted Saturday and Sunday, I'm holding down control. It gives us the 2 days across all of the other filters. So I'm going to switch all of my filters and all of my interactions to filter down now. So I'm going to click that first one, filter. That's set for the bar chart. It's set for the matrix table, and I'm going to switch it on for this for the map. So now when I click Sunday, everything updates how I prefer it, really. This isn't highlighted. The highlight's gone. So that's good. We can add more incidents on a Saturday there. And that's interactions, really. As you can see, what I'm doing is I'm holding down control and I'm clicking through the various visuals. So I've held down control there, and I've selected Bedfordshire on Monday, Saturday and Sunday. And yeah, it's worked. We need to set the interactions with this chart against that chart. So I selected Bedfordshire, and this is still highlighting, but we know how to do that now. So I'm not gonna repeat that. So what we do, we just select this table and then set our visualizations up quite quickly. Actually, I can do it. There you go. So they're filtering down based on what we select in this table now. So we're setting up our interactions. So yeah, that's good. Like I said, I'm holding down control, and it can get really confusing. Or you might let go of control and forget what you're filtering and things like that. So they're okay for sort of filter level interactions are okay, but slices are really the way to go when you want to filter down your data. And that's bringing me on to my last topic now. Instead of using visual level filters, we're going to add some slices. So we're done with interactions. I hope that made sense. They can be a bit wonky when you start playing with them, but just remember you've got 3 icons and you have to set them up for each visual. So I'm going to switch interactions off now to get rid of that. So the final topic for today's slicers. So what I'm going to do is I have added a slicer here, the slicer visual, and I'm going to demonstrate this for a police force. So I'm going to pull in the police force from the dimension table, not from the fact table, because we'll just get a load of numbers. That works through the relationships, and here's all of our police forces. And that's great. We've got 51. We've got some blanks that sort of freak me out, but yeah, I don't know why they're there. So we've got this slicer now. You can select, you can hold down Control and select various different fields in the slicer, and we've got a clear button here to clear the slicer. This little button here it allows you to change it between a list and a drop down, and this is currently a list and now it's a drop down. It takes up a lot less space. There's a drop down, and there's something really important happening here as well with the data model and the loading, because if you switch your slicer from a list, which is that, to a drop down, a drop down loads the information when you trigger it. So I've just triggered it now, and it's gone, okay, I want all of the police forces. So they only load the information in when you click it. With a drop down, with a list, if that's permanently on your page, every refresh it'll be pulling back in. So it's always good to have them set up as drop downs. So that's what I'm going to do for police force. And we've got a nice slicer at the top of the page there. And I'm going to add another slicer for severity. There we go. So this is a second slicer for severity, and I'm going to pull the severity in there. And again, it's coming as a list, which is fine. We can change it to a drop down. Remember, drop downs are better because they load the information when you click them. And so what we can do with this one, because we've only got three categories of severity, we can switch this to buttons. And you do this by going into format, and it's under general. And this caught me out when I was prepping a little bit. It isn't there, and I thought, okay, why? I'm sure I've changed it. I've changed it to buttons many a time, and the reason is you've got to have it in list mode to create a button. And now, if you look under general, he says we've got orientation, vertical and horizontal. That wasn't there when it was a drop down. It only appeared because I created a list out of it. So we've got some nice buttons there at the top. So yeah, I think I'm going to wrap up there. We've covered quite a lot. You know, we've looked at the map visualization. We've got the measures, the calculated columns. We've done a little bit on that. There's hundreds of sort of knowledge shares that we could go through to talk about all of this stuff. I did want to move these onto bookmarks, which is a nice pop-out menu on the left-hand side here. We could do that next month. Quite happy to run through that and get that set up, and we can look at the theme and everything next month. But I hope that's been beneficial. I think I'm losing my voice. But yeah, I hope all of that made sense to you.